Hey guys, Layla here, and I'm back with another video of how many pages does this marker fill. So one thing I noticed while looking at Prismacolor is nobody has done the how many pages does it fill with Prismacolors before, and I'm super excited to be doing this because Prismacolor doesn't have ink refills. So given the fact that they're kind of on the expensive end for markers, I'm curious to find out how many pages can this Prismacolor fill if I can ever open it up. Oh my gosh. Okay, so these are the brush markers. Does not have a chisel nib on the other side, has a bullet nib on the other side. So this will make for an interesting video, I feel, because usually with the last one, I was going through and switching from chisel nib to brush nib, chisel nib, brush nib, you know, back and forth, in order to get out the last of the remaining ink. But bullet nibs are notorious for not really giving out a lot of ink. They're just for detailed kind of spaces. Did I say notorious? What I should say is they're well known for not giving out a lot of ink because they're used for detail kind of areas. And so this color that I'm using is a color that I have not used before in my 48 count set. It is PB65 and its color name is Sienna Brown. And it's a really beautiful color, and I'm just really surprised that I haven't used it yet. But I don't use my Prismacolors too often. I usually save them for when I'm gonna do like a comparison between two marker brands. And it's not because I don't like them, I actually really do like Prismacolor, but they are on the expensive side, coming in at about, I wanna say $4 to $5 a marker. All right, we're coming down to the end of page 1, and so far not too bad. Nice, good, rich color for this first page, and that's that. All right, let's move on to page 2. Let's do the borders. And for those wondering, I am just using the Express It blending card paper in size 8.5 by 11, so it's about the same size. Well, it is the same size as a piece of computer paper, but this paper is specially made for specifically Copic markers, but pretty much any alcohol markers I feel do just fine on this. So I got a comment on my last video, which was the Ahuhu brush markers and how many pages does that fill, and somebody said that how can this be an accurate representation of how much ink the marker has when artists tend to use different kinds of paper? And that was a really good observation, first off, and it was a really good question that, in my opinion, when it comes to paper, and this is exclusively my opinion, at the end of the day, you guys can do whatever you want. If you want to paint on super dry paper and have it suck up all the ink in your marker in one go, have at it. But in my opinion, if you want your markers to last a little bit longer, I suggest getting a type of paper that's compatible with your markers, such as the Express It blending cards, because the surface lets the marker ink just glide across and it doesn't suck it dry. And so if you're using the appropriate paper, even if it's a different brand, say it's not Express It, say it's, I'm not even sure, I think Bristol board is also pretty good with working with alcohol markers. You know, there shouldn't be a huge difference, maybe a page or two, if that. But if you're using watercolor paper, which I know some marker artists like to use that paper for their alcohol markers, you're definitely going to notice a huge difference because that watercolor is meant to completely absorb any sort of liquid on its surface. So it's really gonna take the ink right out of your markers fast. All right, page 2 is complete. Let's compare it against page 1. Pretty much the same. We've got 2 full sheets of very saturated ink. There's no fading or anything. There's streakiness, but that's because I'm not concentrating on trying to make it an even fill. We're just trying to see how much ink is in this. So let's move on to page 3, starting with my border. And also, just a heads up, towards the end, the nib might start getting destroyed in some way, whether it starts fraying or just completely crinkles up, or sometimes it may even come off completely. And I only mention that as a forewarning that it's not an accurate representation of nib durability, but rather just complete and utter marker abuse in order to get all the ink out. So just wanted to let you all know. All right. Page 3 is done, and I am pretty impressed with how saturated it still is. For comparison, here are the other 2 pages, and there's literally no difference between the first page and the third page. So interesting. Usually by the third page is when I would expect a little bit of lightness to start happening. Let's continue to the fourth. And the biggest reason I wanted to do this one with the Prismacolor was that it really is shocking to me how expensive the Prismacolor markers are for not being refillable. And so I'm hoping that these markers individually have a whole bunch of ink for the price that they are. So far so good. Like, I can't believe I'm on the 4th page and it's still giving me this rich, saturated color. So I'm impressed, Prisma. All right, that's the 4th page. Still really good color. So let's continue on with page 5. It looks like it's starting to get lighter now. Not by much, but I can see it happening. And my nib is starting to get lighter. Like, it's starting to get like white patches in it as I do my strokes. The nib is also getting super flexible due to so much pressure that I'm putting down on it. My nib is getting like super flimsy now. Ugh, not good. I'm gonna see if I can switch to the other side. I know it's a bullet nib, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Oh my gosh, this is gonna take 10 years. This is the worst. I love bullet nibs, but I just don't quite understand a bullet nib on the other side of a brush nib marker. Yeah, this is a waste of time. Okay, well, I'm gonna go back to the brush nib and continue. So the thing with Prismacolor is it seems like the color lasts for a long time, but when it starts fading, it feels like it starts fading fast. All right, page 5. In comparison to page 1, definitely big difference. You can definitely see this is starting to fade. Let's move on to page 6. Whoops. The nib is starting to grip the paper since it's so dry. All right, got my border done. Now I'm gonna fill it in. And I really hope my nib doesn't break, because if it does, I don't know what I'm gonna use to get whatever ink remaining is left. Okay, now I'm gonna have to be vicious in order to get the ink out. Oh, this poor nib. Nope, the nib is breaking. Ah, no! I just need you to keep going until I can get all the ink out. Come on, let's go. You got this. Oh, wow. Okay, so I just took the nib out. Okay, so we have this. I guess I'm just gonna, yeah. To be honest, you would not be doing this to your markers, and if you are, please stop. Don't do this to your markers. I'm just trying to get all the ink that I possibly can out. And it's getting all over my hands too, so there's that. I'm just really surprised at how fast it faded though. Like, it had such good, amazing color saturation, and then it just, when it faded, it was gone. It was done. It was like, I'm out, peace. Yeah, that's it guys. I'm trying. Let me just try the bullet nib one more time. Will the bullet nib come out? Oh, yes it does. It makes me wonder like what it looks like on the inside. I don't know how to open it though. I guess there is no opening it. But yeah, this is pretty much it. I honestly thought it was gonna last a lot more. Not because that's what I expected from the beginning, but rather from how much ink saturation I was getting in the first few pages. I was like, wow, we're on the 4th page and it's still going amazing. And I thought, this is gonna last for like 10, 13 pages maybe. And then it's like, nope. So that's that. I'm calling it. Even though some of it got on my fingers, sorry about that. I hope that doesn't like mess with the overall outcome. I don't think it does. Honestly, I feel pretty confident to say, let's see. we've got page 1, page 2, page 3, 4, 5 and a half. I'm confident to say 5.5 pages. And that's like even including the ink on my fingers. And so there you have it, 5.5 pages. Kind of surprising for how expensive these Prismacolor markers are. And like if you buy them in sets, they're not too bad. But when you run out of marker, you've got to buy the individual marker, and to buy open stock, you know, the individual marker costs the $4 to sometimes $5, depending on where you buy it. So I hope this was informative to you all. I hope you learned something. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.